The House of Representatives is in search of votes for a budget deal. Congressman Jim Jordan is at the top of the show. He'll let us know where things stand. Plus, we've got an inside perspective from the motivations driving the negotiations for peace in the Russia-Ukraine war. And has California had enough punishment? Randy Economy is trying to save her, and he's here in studio. Plus, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth takes a trip to Gitmo. Our Pentagon correspondent, Gabrielle Cuccia, has the scoop. All next on the Matt Gaetz Show. Let's do this. We're shaking up Washington, D.C. We're breaking the fever.
You ever watch this guy on television? It's like a machine. He's great. Matt Gaetz.
I'm told conservatives usually resist the rapid pace of change. That isn't what's happening right now in the world of the Trump administration. Change is coming quickly, decisively, and at the volume of a wide-open fire hose. On the border, President Trump has already delivered his promise. Encounters are down 93%. He's sealed the border. The value proposition for cartels and traffickers has changed. They're not pushing large loads of bodies across. Turns out it just took ending the catch and release policies and letting ICE do their job. Weeks ago, we found an unprotected area of the San Diego border, and we brought you that story. In the days since, that area has been swarming with CBP agents, and the traffickers have largely abandoned the route. When it comes to obliterating the deep state, President Trump has assembled an all-star team from Attorney General Pam Bondi to deep state hunter Kash Patel at FBI. And for those who would try to sabotage America on the inside, they're on notice. Dan Bongino is even joining the team as Deputy Director of the FBI, and we could not be more excited about that. Then there's the issue of free speech and censorship. Pro-life Americans who were expressing their rights of free speech were arrested and jailed. President Trump pardoned them. Other Americans were peacefully protesting on January 6th. They had the book thrown at them by the Biden administration. President Trump vindicated free speech and freedom of assembly by showing them grace where appropriate. But for these important reforms to be durable and lasting, he needs the backup of Congress. President Trump's most talented and hardest working, and I would say most powerful ally in Congress is a man who was a mentor of mine during my own service in that body, Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio. I long believed that he should be Speaker of the House.
I rise to nominate the most talented, hardest working member of the Republican conference, who just gave a speech with more vision than we have ever heard from the alternative. I'm nominating Jim Jordan.
When I traveled the country giving speeches, I stated that Jim Jordan should be Speaker. It was usually my best applause line. All of these critical issues, reforming the administrative state, immigration, restoring our Second Amendment rights, and crushing the censorship industrial complex, reside in the jurisdiction of the Judiciary Committee that Chairman Jordan continues to brilliantly lead. Here at OAN, we are particularly concerned about censorship and free speech. You might not know it, but most advertising purchased on the programs you watch is subject to a grading system by NGOs to determine if the information is factual based on their deeply biased standards. Claims like COVID came out of the Wuhan lab, or FBI assets were at the Capitol on January 6th, or vaccines can have dangerous side effects. Those got news organizations like ours dinged and demonetized by some of these advertising aggregators. Now, of course, we know these things to be true. So who watches the watchers? Who ensures that some NGO housed in the basement of some liberal university with a bunch of genderless professors struggling in their drum circle, funded with your money, isn't limiting your ability to confront facts and make your own judgments? Jim Jordan, as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, took on this challenge.
Our government built a cozy relationship with big tech. They primed him for a hack and leak operation. They funded the think tank, which further primed big tech and big media. They leaked information to undermine the good work of 2 United States senators. And then 51 former Intel officials closed the deal with their letter. As Mr. Schellenberger pointed out in his reporting, the information op was run on us, run on we the people. And if that's not the weaponization of government, I don't know what is.
The election of President Trump alone doesn't solve all of our problems, and many of these censorship networks still exist. But Chairman Jordan has been exposing them, from GARM and NewsGuard to others. Even agencies in our own government, like the Departments of Defense, State, and Homeland Security, have funded grants to these censorship nodes.
In the name of combating alleged misinformation regarding COVID-19 in the 2020 election, the National Science Foundation has been issuing multi-million-dollar grants to universities and nonprofit research teams to develop artificial intelligence-powered censorship and propaganda tools. These tools can be used by government and big tech to shape public opinion by restricting certain viewpoints and promoting others. They want taxpayer money coming to them so they can develop tools with AI to censor American speech. I don't know if it gets much scarier than that. They collude to make sure that no other advertisers support any news outlets, platforms, or creators that these massive companies don't agree with. Uncommon collaboration needs to be understood as the industry coming together, putting aside competitive concerns. Mr. Waller just said we don't have a cartel here, but that sounds a lot like a cartel to me. If the WFA and GARM are allowed to continue, if these massive companies can collude without consequences, the results will be devastating. If this cartel continues to target conservative outlets, content creators with different voices and viewpoints, and any person that does not recite the so-called mainstream media talking points, there'll be real problems. They will deprive these good journalists and content creators of the funding they need to succeed. They will use their cartel to eliminate competition based on internal biases of these massive companies, and they will deprive Americans of the content that they actually want to consume.
As this critical work continues, Chairman Jordan has just exposed that the Biden IRS leaked over 400,000 records of individual Americans, including President Trump. How did this happen, and what is the recourse? Chairman Jordan, we're learning that the IRS leaked these 400,000 records. What should the public know about who's affected and what the harm could be?
Well, there's a lot of business people. By the way, first of all, Matt, congratulations on the show.
Thanks.
It's good to be with you. Yeah, it's like 405,000. Many of them are business people, but it was one individual who went to the IRS, contractor, went there with the express purpose, the goal of releasing President Trump's tax return. And he didn't just release that. He, 405,000 and some odd businesses and individuals were, their information was released. And I think maybe for me, Matt, the big takeaway is, they're getting on the president and Elon, oh, this could jeopardize some confidential information. Look at what happened with this guy, going there for one goal, to go after President Trump. And as a result, is all these individuals whose information gets public, which is, as you know, 6103, the IRS, the tax law says you can't do that, but he did. And only one count, charged only one count, not for all 405,000, one count against this guy by the Biden DOJ.
So, Mr. Chairman, nobody has been fighting harder against the censorship industrial complex than you have, and we're particularly interested in groups like NewsGuard and GARM.
Yeah.
Are you going to continue to review them? Now that we have a friendly FCC, can you imagine the work of the Judiciary Committee resulting in some sort of referral to the FCC so that advertising dollars aren't constrained?
Yeah, great point. We are going to continue to do that. We view it as, like, as you said, in this censorship effort. GARM, I always remember when I first talked to Elon Musk about GARM, he said GARM should be called harm. Thank goodness they're out of business. But there are these other entities that kind of spring up. And so we're going to continue to watch those and hopefully have the kind of impact we had last Congress on this, what Michael Schellenberger, one of the Twitter Files authors, called the censorship industrial complex. I mean, think about this. Did you ever think we would get a letter to our committee, to committee Republicans, which you were a part of, where Mark Zuckerberg said, the Biden administration pressured us to censor. We did it. We're sorry, and we won't do it again. And to their credit, they have changed their policy and went to the policy that Elon Musk has on X. So we made some progress, but we got to stay after this because, again, if you don't have free speech rights, if you don't have a First Amendment, you lose what is just so fundamental to liberty and how our system works.
That Zuckerberg revolution really occurred through the work of the Weaponization subcommittee that you led. Do you buy that it's durable? Because I see exactly what you just described, and I think, well, the moment the left's in charge, this guy's just going to swing back.
Well, there's always that concern. And I think, we've been around a little while. I can still remember back when we first started figuring out they were spying on President Trump's campaign and the whole Trump-Russia collusion thing was a bunch of garbage. So I think it's always important we keep our eye on the government and some of these folks at big tech. But I do take it to be pretty genuine. I mean, they were there with President Trump when he got sworn in. Let's hope it is. But what was President Reagan? Let's trust them, but let's verify as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that spying on President Trump's campaign. We are seeing some reports that Kash Patel may be opening an investigation into some of James Comey's activities to get after the Trump campaign. Is that something you would welcome?
I do. Remember, it was Cash who put together the memo. I know you remember this because there were only a handful of us here in the House who were saying, this doesn't smell right. This seems ridiculous. And then, of course, we got the memo from Cash and Chairman Nunes, and it confirmed kind of what we were suspecting. And he laid out that it was, you know, the Clinton campaign hiring the law firm Perkins Coie, who hired Fusion GPS, who hired Christopher Steele, a foreigner, who put together the fake dossier that was a bunch of garbage, and they used that to go get the warrant. So I do think it's important that we get all the facts. We sent 7 subpoenas to the FBI yesterday. We want all the facts on so many of these scandals that we were digging into and investigating in the last Congress. The school board situation, the memorandum on pro-life Catholics saying that they were extremists in the Richmond field office of the FBI, the confidential human sources. How many times did you and Massey ask Chris Wray about were there confidential human sources at the Capitol on January 6, 2021? And, oh, I can't answer that. Well, he could have answered that. And we found out from the Inspector General there were 26 of them. Some of them specifically asked to be there by the FBI. So we want to get answers to all those because we feel the folks we get the privilege of representing would like to have certain questions answered. And that's why we've sent the subpoenas, and we're trying to get that information.
The House of Representatives is in the middle of constructing this budget resolution now, Mr. Chairman. Our good friend Tim Burchett was on the program last night, and he expressed concern that the current budget outline would restore a lot of the cuts that President Trump and Elon Musk have been making through the DOGE process. What do you think Americans need to know about the work House Republicans are doing right now to get a budget resolution passed?
Well, we certainly appreciate the work the president and Elon are doing on the DOGE effort and that team, and we need to incorporate those into whether it's the appropriations process or the reconciliation process. What I know is this is step one, and this budget resolution will allow us to cut taxes, reduce spending, help our national defense, and secure the border. And those are the very things we all campaigned on. I mean, I say this all the time. I think we make this job too complicated. It's pretty simple. What'd you tell the voters you were going to do when you ran for it? If you get elected, go do what you said. And we told them we would do those things. And frankly, the 4 things that this would enable us to do, this budget resolution, the most important one is probably the key one in the campaign was secure the border. And that's where our committee comes in, and we're working on making sure we get that done.
I thought securing the border would be harder than this, but we look at what's happening and 93% of the encounters have stopped. I never would have imagined it would have been as easy as ending catch and release, doing deportations internally in the country. And for the most part, I mean, that work is completed. There is still work to do to vindicate Second Amendment rights of many Americans. And we were always so frustrated with the Biden ATF personnel who would punish gun owners and punish license holders. Now I see Kash Patel is actually also the head of the ATF. And so what should gun owners expect from maybe just a little more breathing room to exercise Second Amendment rights?
Well, that the pistol brace crazy rule that they changed after they had for 10 years had a previous rule and they just did it. That'll go back to the way it should be. We're working on legislation with the suppressor issue. But I think maybe most important, this is where these two things tie together. The raid where they went to Brian Malinowski's house, where they put the tape on the doorbell camera, and then 53 seconds later, pre-dawn raid, ATF agents at his house, and 53 seconds later, he's shot in the head. He was the top municipal employee in Little Rock, ran the Bill and Hillary Clinton airport in Little Rock, and they shoot him because they thought he had sold 6 guns illegally. For goodness sake, it was a search warrant. So that's the other thing that I think changes with Kash now running the FBI and the ATF.
Final question for you, Mr. Chairman. We saw President Trump endorse Vivek Ramaswamy for governor of Ohio. I know you are loved in every corner of Ohio. Every time I go there, they're so proud of you as a favorite son. Do you join the president in endorsing Vivek for governor?
I think Vivek would be a great governor. I've gotten to know him over the last few years. Obviously, he was one sharp guy. I think truly committed to making sure government works for we the people, is not weaponized against we the people. I think he'd do a good job. Now, one of my best buddies and colleagues may run, so I don't want to go too far, but I really like Vivek. Yeah,
well, I know you would win any election in Ohio you ran for anything and probably anywhere in the United States of America. Jim Jordan, thank you for all the work you do leading the Judiciary Committee and being a tremendous rudder for the House of Representatives.
Thank you, Matt. Take care.